Welcome to the Uplift, where we are uplifting our lives, uplifting each other, and uplifting our communities together. Thank you for joining myself, Cy Herrera, and Tessa Cy here, two women, two attorneys, doing it our way, and inviting you here each week to share in on the stories, advice, and life lessons we've picked up along our journeys that keep us uplifted, and that will hopefully do the very same thing for you. Now buckle in and let's get ready to be uplifted.
Welcome, everyone. As always, I am Tessa, and I am joined by the lovely and amazing Cy.
Hello, hello. Good morning.
Good morning. We are recording in a morning, obviously. After Cy did something really amazing for our community in Texas yesterday, and I thought maybe she could share it with really inspiring and uplifting, not only the fundraising, but also the cause and, the action itself.
Of course, yeah, my pleasure. So we participated again in the Hill Country Ride for AIDS this year. Our organization, Asheville, is one of 9 local beneficiaries that just benefits from this really beautiful community of kindness every year. So this is the 24th year that they've been doing it. It's the biggest ride, I think maybe in the country, but definitely in Texas, specifically raising money for organizations benefiting people living with HIV/AIDS. And it's just a really special community. You know, so many people are riding through the Hill Country, raising money from their networks to benefit these local nonprofits because they've, lost somebody to HIV/AIDS. They, love and know people living long lives with HIV/AIDS, or they just know that everybody deserves, good health care. And that's why it's so important that this happens every year, because these local nonprofits really do depend on the money, and they raise so much, and it's so amazing all the work that they do. And up until this year, I mean, it was volunteers that were doing the entire production, like
Oh,
literally all
wow.
the tents, like everything out there. They just finally brought on a production company, and I think that helped everybody, be able to enjoy it a little more, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
And it was so fun. I mean, it's just always wonderful to see this beautiful community coming together. And right now in Texas, with so much terrible legislation attacking the queer community, who is
Mm.
disproportionately impacted by HIV/AIDS, it was really kind of like just, family coming together. It's a beautiful, beautiful community. So I was really happy to be able to ride and just go out and support and hit my fundraising goals. So I really appreciate
Awesome.
everybody that supported it. And yeah, it's just wonderful how it people can just come together and do something like that. I think it's really amazing because it just started with people. It just started with people who thought they should do something, and I love that. It's such a testament, right, to what's possible and how individuals can make change, especially in their local communities. And I was reflecting on that because I was thinking, wow, next year is going to be 25 years. Like, that's a big deal. And it's just amazing that it's gone on this long, and people are still doing everything to make it bigger and better every year.
And what I think is amazing about this entire um, event and situation is that I think it's fair for me to say that Cy is not an avid bike rider, right? Like
Definitely not.
that, I think is really cool part about it.
Hmm.
That
No,
as
yeah.
somebody who's not an avid bike rider, you've started doing this, and it's very cool to know that you don't have to be like this experienced. I can't even say Lance Armstrong type because I don't think that's appropriate anymore. Uh, I don't know
Just
any other people who
cyclist.
ride bikes,
Yeah.
cyclists,
You don't have
right?
to be a
You're not
professional. Yeah.
you're not out there on 360 every weekend, like
Oh,
challenging
no.
yourself on the hill. And
No, no, not at all.
I think that's a really, the special part about it, that it is people who just decided to like get back on a bike and ride. Like,
Yeah,
does
yeah,
it come back to you naturally from
yeah.
kid time? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised. I was like, I have literally not touched this bike in a year. And I was able to ride it again. I mean, they do recommend that you know, go with the training. They have little joy rides and it's like training going up to it. But you know, some people literally just like, okay, this is the day I dedicate to this. And some of them do all their fundraising in that day too. They just do it all in one day. And we even seen kids out there this year, more kids. And so I really love that. It's just making it so inclusive. And really one of the things that helped me get over it too, this is just so community minded, is knowing that I'm not a cyclist and really truthfully like an anti-athlete. they they offer what they call SAG, which is just folks in vehicles that go up and down the route, and they will just pick anyone up that's ready to get a ride back home, back to home base. And that just gave me the comfort that I needed to be like, okay, I'm not going to die out there. Somebody will come save me. So it's just little thoughtful things like that where you're like, okay, you know, we can do this. And you're right, it really is. It makes all the difference. Yeah.
It does, and I think, it's all those thinking about it, and when you hear somebody say, "Oh, well, I rode Hill Country Ride for AIDS," you're thinking, "Oh, well, this person's obviously a regular cyclist." And it kind of leads me into what I was thinking about this week, which is preconceived notions, right? Like when I first heard about it, I'm like, "Oh, well, Cy must be a regular cyclist. This is something new I didn't know about her." And yet, that was my preconceived notion, which was wrong.
Very wrong.
But, thinking about, like, I'm in the middle of a legislative session, which is, doing all these other horrible things that we see in the news. But my business is very much about, like, you have, I guess, perception over reality, right? Like busyness and productivity, and you measure success only by how much money you make. And I think all those like preconceived notions that we're prioritizing are so, this would be a time where we should probably bleep me because, but it's really kind of messed up, right? Like, is that what makes people happy? Is that what's bringing you joy? Are
Unfortunately
we?
not.
Yeah.
I've heard somebody say, like, it was someone famous and rich who was like, I just wish everybody could be famous and rich and finally get to be famous and rich to know that that's not what it is. That's not what is going to make you happy. Like, they're just like, I wish everyone had it just so they would be like, oh, okay, that's not it. What else can I look for?
Right? Because like the uber successful people that I know in industries are kind of lonely. Well, I'm not even gonna say kind of,
Yeah.
are lonely.
Yep. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
isolating.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah.
And talking about preconceived notions, you know, people have so many of them about you, especially when you're successful. And it's really interesting because it's like we're all trying to get these like badges of success honor, and then you get them and then nobody can relate to you and they want to be you, but they don't like you necessarily. So
Right. Like
it's kind of interesting, right?
I started watching this show on Netflix called The Diplomat, and it's about a
Mm,
female diplomat, and she's surrounded by a lot of really strong women, and part of it was a conversation was like, you want to appear smart but not too smart, you don't want to look like, you want to be, pretty but not
mm,
too
not
pretty,
too
you want
pretty.
you want to be
Oh my
assertive
gosh.
but not bitchy, you want
Oh
to
my
be
gosh.
smart and assertive but not super bitchy,
That is like a
right?
great
Like,
summary of being a woman. Oh my god.
isn't it? I mean, I was laughing because it's just
That's
so
hilarious.
ridiculously true, but that's
Yes.
the preconceived notions about, being a woman or being anyone who's othered. You have those like you have to be a little bit, but not too much. I mean,
Yeah.
who made up these lines? It's like ridiculous. Like,
Oh my
can't we
gosh.
just all be ourselves?
Absolutely. And I mean, I guess part of the thing that I appreciate about this conversation is just calling it out and knowing that it's, you know, that that's a thing that we're all going through. And, you
Yeah.
know, I noticed this in some of my relationships with other women that, you know, if you understand that that's already there, it's like you can kind of make fun of it and get
Mhm.
over it, like, it's almost like parody, like, it's so amazing when you, like, just highlight something and you just call it out by name, and so I remember I met one of my coworkers one time who was just really beautiful. She's like, literally done modeling and she's just gorgeous. And I met her and like one of the first things she says was, "I'm not a bitch, I just look like one." And it just cracked me up. And it made me instantly feel a little bit differently toward her where I was like, "Oh, okay, this person is a real person." Whereas otherwise I might have felt some other way, but it was just really interesting that she was able to kind of break down that wall immediately.
And thinking back to, like, your twenty-something self, I know at twenty-something, I did not understand either the barriers that were ahead of me or kind of those conversations that women have of, "Be this, but not that. Be a little bit
Mm,
of this, but not too much of this." We
mhm,
it was kind of eye-opening for me when I realized it was happening, but it kind of became settled when I found, like, women talking about it.
mm, mhm.
Did you have that moment? Or maybe you were more well-informed in your 20s where you were
I
like,
don't know about
"Oh,
that.
I knew this was gonna be all messed up."
I don't know. I really well, when you say women talking about it, I'm not sure what you mean because the way I think about it is, there's a lot of unwritten rules and
Mhm.
people reinforce them in these strange ways that tell you you're doing too much or you're not doing enough. And sometimes people
Mhm.
straight out tell you things, and then that's really telling, to say the least. But for the most part, I feel like it's a very interesting, subtle art form of society, just shaping people and letting them know, like, oh no, we don't do that, or just giving you looks or whatever, just
Mhm.
little snide comments, like the little passive aggressive things. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I was just thinking about that today, actually, about like clothing and the different clothing that we wear at different times in our life, at different ages or different eras of our life, I should say. And I was just thinking about that a lot because when I was a teenager or when I was younger, I was experimenting with fashion. I just remember women saying the most snide little things, and it just sticks out as interesting to me, right? Because it's like very much like they're trying to push you in a certain direction, right? And just like you said, it's like you have to find this like a perfect balance of just this, but not too much of that. Like that is just the perfect way to put it because you never really, get a handbook what you're supposed to do, what you're supposed to wear, anything. But people reinforce it in small ways. And so I find that really interesting. And I don't think that in my experience, people really called it out, when it would have made the most difference for me, I guess. I feel like it was very much a progression of like starting to experiment with not caring what people thought and like
Yeah.
not responding to these little remarks and starting to like shift my thinking and being like, oh, this is about them and not me. And I'm trying to think about how that really happened, but I think it just came to the point where it was too much, to be honest. Like for me, it felt like, you know, it was coming from all these different sides and everyone had their own opinion and it was always a little bit different too. And so I was like, this is just confusing. I just I'm like, I don't know what to do with all of these data points, it's just too much. That does not fit, it does not compute, it does not, work in my logic model. And so for me, I was like, the only logical thing is for me to disregard all of these opinions. And so I think that's how I got there. But I don't really recall. It was definitely a journey.
When I first started working in politics, I had women and men say to me, "Wow, you're like the first person around here who has ever dressed femininely." And I'm like, I don't know what that means.
Right,
Two, what? And
right,
three, why are you in my business?
right. Talking about my clothes right now, that's
Right.
just weird.
And I was trying to figure it out. Then I realized it was like all these, especially with the women, it was, and I think probably the men too, had a belief that at the time like pantsuit nation was alive and well, and if you wanted to be a powerful and successful woman, you had to have a pantsuit, and it always
Mm.
had to be a pantsuit. I was just like, mm, hard pass. No, pants are not for me. But I'm
Mhm.
also like, but you're so right. It is all about them and their insecurities and
Yeah,
what they think is appropriate.
yeah.
And wow, that's a hard life to live if you're just constantly either trying to appease those people or you're one of those people and you're just telling people what they should be doing all the time.
Right, and I was just thinking about their perspective too, like, they're probably thinking, "Oh, I wanna help this other woman. I wanna
Mm,
help her succeed. I wanna help her get ahead," or something. Maybe, like, it could be a place from a good it could be from somewhere good. It could
right,
also very much be like, you're very insecure and you're projecting, all of that good stuff as well, but I mean, in their mind, like, in their justifications, I mean, I feel like everyone's trying to do something probably kind, but I think it seems so interesting to me that it's just really amazing how everyone in society, not everyone, but so many of us in society have been conditioned ourselves to condition other people. Isn't that fascinating?
yeah.
I
I
think that's
don't,
just so interesting.
I mean, I guess isn't that like whole unsolicited advice? Is
Mhm.
it, as somebody who I don't think offers much unsolicited advice, I'm like, what makes you think I care about your opinion? And so I kind of try,
Exactly.
I take that with me and like, don't give a lot of unsolicited advice.
Mhm.
Though I
But I
will
mean, so many
confess,
other people are taught. I mean, it's just like there's obviously it's interesting that you have that perspective to me because I don't know anybody else like that. I feel like I mean, and it's obviously if you're talking to someone, it seems like you would care about their opinion or whatever. Sure, like I'm not judging anyone that says anything, obviously, or gives their opinion, but it's just like especially with clothing, for example, like that's just such a great example, right? Because
mhm,
you're not talking to somebody like, "I need advice on what kind of clothes to wear." Like, you didn't go to these other people in your workplace and say, "I'm just lost. Just please help me, give me advice." Like, that
yeah,
was not the situation. Like people observed you and then they were like, "Here are my opinions about you." Like, that's just it's so strange and it's so normal. It's just so
it
typical.
it also reminds me of going out on business lunches,
Mhm.
and then the person that you're with or someone in the group that you're with says, "Oh, well, that's a really healthy choice." I'm just like, huh? I don't understand your puritanical view of
Right.
like
Right.
punishment and whatever it is,
No,
suffering.
no. But it's so common, like
So
literally
common.
oh my gosh, not even just like it's for me it always feels like it's a comparison, right? Because you're
Yeah.
sitting with somebody and they make a choice and you make a choice. And it's like, yeah, you just like compare immediately and maybe that's just human nature, but for me like I'm always thinking about like what do I feel like eating right now?
Right.
And sometimes other people ask me like, "Well, what are you gonna get?" Like, that's so
Yeah.
classic. "Well, what are you gonna get?" Like, they have to, like, consider that before they decide what they feel like eating,
Yeah.
and or if, and I mean, sometimes it goes the other way, which is also amazing. Like, I sometimes I have, a business lunch with, a friend and colleague, and, like, she's about to order a salad, and I'm like, "I want a hamburger," and she's like, "Oh, yes, let's have a secret," which is just also, again, playing to the puritanical guilt, but we're like, "We're gonna have secret hamburgers and fries, and we're not gonna tell anybody," and I'm like, "I won't tell anybody." I mean, I don't talk to anybody about what food I've eaten for the day, so I'm good.
Right, like, who does that? I would say I'd like to meet the person who does go around talking about what food they but then I'm like, "No, I
No, that would be so boring. It would just be
so boring
boring. Yeah,
and
it's not
sad."
fun.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a tourist. This is not our wheelhouse. Like, our wheelhouse is, like, sensual pleasure.
That
Suffering
makes
and
so much sense. Yeah.
suffering and deprivation is not really in the tourist wheelhouse.
I'm a Capricorn and I feel like I'm an ox, right? Like I basically am built to work and suffer, but I've entered my pleasure era very consciously and very deliberately. But it takes a lot to get there when everyone is telling you, to do all the things, to be a good
Right.
worker and all of that. And so it took a long time for me to get here. And I'm just so happy to be here. I want more people to be here with me.
I agree. Like, I want people to know that they don't have to be overscheduled and
Right.
they don't, every moment doesn't have to be productive. Like, there is such a need for more self-care, and I think self-care can make you more productive if productivity is something you're seeking, right? Like,
And one of
I think self-care makes
mhm.
you better at the things that you do.
Oh yeah, rest is power, first of all. So like if you're trying to do something, like if you're trying to get things really done and long, you have to rest. Rest is part of your toolkit, right? But another thing that sticks out to me or that has helped me kind of on this journey too is it's just philosophy generally, but something one philosopher said was so many people were so busy trying to figure out what the meaning of life was that they missed the whole point of like literally the meaning of life is just to live it. And
Mhm.
I don't know why, but that one speaks to me and it sticks with me and it makes me compelled to understand that we are all worthy of enjoying life, like just by the
Yeah,
nature of we are here. We are alive. It's freaking amazing. Like it's so
yeah,
amazing if you really think about all of the things in the universe that had to happen for us to exist and be talking to each other right now and talking about the philosophy of life. I mean, that is incredible. And for people to minimize your life down to, units of production or, time spent, or even just, having to seek some kind of approval, affirmation, or glorification from other people. I mean, it's just so interesting to me that we could really look up and miss the whole point. We could really look up and be like, "Oh, wow, I did not I did yeah, I missed an opportunity to just live," right? And that's what
right.
worries me for so many people because they do get caught, they just get caught in the rat race, they get caught in all of these weird expectations, and I think we have to call out that so much of this is coming from a place that you might not even realize, right? Like, yes, a lot of it is coming from these weird puritanical values, but now it's all kind of mixed up in these weird capitalistic things too. And it's I'm not against people building wealth. I'm not against people finding security and all of that. I think that's probably good. But so many things that we're made to be felt insecure about and made to feel like we need the next thing, we need the newest thing, right? I mean, that's all just trying to
Mhm.
get profit. That's all just to find somebody else's pockets. And
Yes.
we have to know
Mhm.
that. Like, it's just not about us and our self-worth. And that's what's so interesting to me is that there has been this incredibly, I think, sinister tie between our psyche of whether or not we're worthy, or whether or not we're good, or whether or not we're valuable based on what we have, what we get. And I mean,
Yeah.
I'm being extremely real because it's real, like, and when, and I'm just gonna say, like, I totally like can relate to this and say that I definitely struggle with it because I will look around and just be like, one day nothing matters to me. I'm going to like listen to Nietzsche and, the philosophy of like I could be a monk one day, right? And the next day I'm like, ooh, brand new car, yes, I need that. And it's just like you get swept up in it. And everything points to yes, you should do
Yeah.
that. And it's gonna make you look better, feel better. Other people are gonna think different things of you and it encourages it. And it's just a real thing. It's a real thing that we are all living in. And so I just want to recognize that, even though that is a reality, and even though we all, I think, to some extent probably participate in that and we feel good
Mhm.
from it sometimes, it doesn't mean that that defines us, and it doesn't mean that we ever have to for 1 minute think that we are not just worthy of a wonderful life regardless of, what we can and cannot afford to buy.
Totally. And I think that, well, as the Taurus input, it is a-okay to do things that just bring you pleasure. And
Mhm.
if that is buying a new car, that is buying a new car.
Yep, that too.
And don't let people judge you for it.
Exactly. That's true. I mean, it actually cuts both ways, like we talked
Right?
about. And that's the thing is people are gonna judge you no matter what you do, so you might as well do whatever the hell you wanna do.
Yeah. I saw something this week that was you can't appease everybody all the time. Someone's always going to be disappointed. Just make sure the person who's disappointed isn't you,
That one, yeah, I like that one.
right?
Yep, that's the way to go because at the end of the day, you have to live with your decisions actually.
Yeah.
And nobody else has to actually live them. You have to live them. Other people will observe them, other people might pretend like your decisions somehow, reflect on them or mean something to them or for their lives, but the truth is, it doesn't impact anybody's life as much as it impacts yours, and you have to live with all of that, so,
Exactly.
you know and
And
that's how you get to peace, right? Is, like, aligning what you really want in life with what you're doing.
and do you think that's comes with practice, comes with
Um,
time, comes with seeing it
Both.
in other people, maybe all of these things?
All of those things, yeah. I mean, for me, exposure is really important because I'm just kind of, I guess, maybe a visual person or something. I don't know. You have to see. Sometimes you have to see it. Some people, I mean, some people just have it. I mean, some people, I think, were raised by people who have already gotten to that point, right? And I think of
Mhm.
it as like a form of enlightenment myself. I don't know what else to call it, but for me, it's like there are people who have already hit these epiphanies in life, and maybe they've raised a person who, that's instilled in them, and so they're just walking around the world like, of course I think this way, right? And I love that for them. I love that for them. But there's so many others of us that did, not necessarily have that or do have some of it, but not all of it, right? And it's like
Right.
whenever you see someone just living a liberated life, you're like, well, damn, okay.
It's
You're just like, I didn't know.
it's something that my spouse says to me a lot is we need to have you just need you just needed me to give you permission to do what you already wanted to do.
Mm,
And I think that's kind of where we are, where we just need the permission to like give ourselves some inner peace or
mhm,
give ourselves permission to, buy the new car or give ourselves permission to take the new job that pays more because it's the right choice, not because it pays more,
mhm,
right?
mhm. Or even a job that pays less. Like that's what I mean is like
Ding,
there's
ding, ding. Yes.
people have so many opinions about what you should and shouldn't be doing with your life. And the only one that really counts is yours. It really is because
Yeah.
you have to live with it, right? So like if you pick that job that pays higher and makes you miserable, you have to now be miserable because you made that choice, right? Whereas
Mhm.
you might take the job that pays less and your life is going to be wonderful and people are going to say, "What the hell is wrong with you? Why would you turn down, that big executive job or whatever it is?" I mean, this just can play out in every part of our lives. And what I'm really interested in is how we talk about finding people that support you and having your advisory, board and having people that will really guide you because they care about you and they want the best for you. I
Mhm.
also I'm also starting to think we need to surround ourselves with people who respect that you should be, you know, completely liberated. That you should be completely
Yeah.
liberated and that and maybe surround yourself with other people who you sense that they, are pursuing liberation in every form because
Yeah.
it's just like, it makes me think of the old adage of like, you should surround yourself with people, if you want to be rich, surround yourself with people that have money or whatever, which that's hilarious that that is the saying that it, comes from that. But just using that instead of money, thinking about liberation because what's more valuable than freedom? Come on.
Yeah.
Freedom of the mind, freedom of your movement, freedom of your relationships, like, I mean, freedom to be whoever you want, like, that to me is like money can't even buy that. There's so many people that are filthy rich and they're trapped. They're not free, and I mean, I'm saying that not being a wealthy person, so this could all be, my fantasies. But I think that it's true. I've seen people who aren't even necessarily rich. It's such a loaded word, right? But people who literally just get trapped in what they think they're supposed to be, or what they think they're supposed to do, or what they think how they think they're supposed to act, how they think they're supposed to dress, how who they think they're supposed to be surrounded by. And the opposite of that is like real liberation, right? Just true liberation of doing exactly what you want when you want and changing your mind whenever you want to. So that part really appeals to me of like, can we find people to surround ourselves with that would support that liberated lifestyle of you being able to just decide what you want whenever you want it and not having to be on even like one pat like it just dawned on me that, even the community, not community, but our personal advisory boards, um, when I'm thinking about that, I might be thinking about like, people who want to see me succeed in my career. And I love them for that. And I'm so grateful that they want that. But what if they have a specific idea of what that looks like?
Yes.
And my
So
idea
true.
might be like, this is what I want right now. And in 5 years, I want to quit everything and like move to the Bahamas. Like, I need people to support me in that.
And this reminds me of a conversation that we've had about our answer to where do you see yourself in 5 years has been to be happy, right?
Mhm,
Like, it
mhm.
has never been this like career driven objective. It is, hmm, I
Right.
just want to make sure I'm happy in 5 years.
Yeah, yeah, and that could change, right? You can
Yep.
change. People
You're,
do change. I hope I'm never
yes.
the same my entire life. How boring would that be? Like,
Oh, it would be
I'm counting
horrible.
on the change.
Yes.
So and growth, right? And, like, depth, and yeah, I'm excited for that. So that's also just, like, a little, I guess, cautionary thing of, like, yes, surround yourself with people who want you to do well, but that really care about you to the point where they want whatever you want, right? And whenever you decide that you want something different, that is what they want to support you in getting. I think that part is really, really significant because oh, there's so much imposition that people can subtly play into, right? And so we don't want that. We want people to actually be free to do whatever they want to do whenever they want to do it.
Yeah, I was scrolling through Instagram and there was this article about celebrities, which I then clickbait read. And what there are some celebrities who can't even go or won't go
Mm.
into public at all,
Mhm.
right? Like, say, the Beyoncés of the world,
Right.
who, right, everything is choreographed, right?
Mhm.
And then there are the celebrities that I think it was Hilary Swank who won an Oscar and then, like, the next day or the day after went grocery shopping and used coupons because that's who she is, right?
Mhm.
And I'm just
Mhm.
like, I appreciate the fact that they're both living what from the outside looks like, you know, celebrity life, but they've done it in such different ways. And I just hope both of them are happy in what they're doing. But
Mm.
something tells me that it's really hard to be happy when you're just isolated.
Absolutely. And I mean, can you trust, any like so much trust issues at that point too. Money is such a weird thing. But
So weird.
it's so weird. But yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not like, oh, poor little rich people, but I do think that it's kind of an interesting lesson too, because like not even on that level of celebrity, but even on smaller levels of like, you know, I don't know. I don't know how to really say this, but I come from a community where people have basically been struggling for a long time, and still are in a lot of ways. And I think that it seems like there's so many people in my generation that are having similar experiences. I just heard about a woman who created a book, And I really want to read it. I can't remember what it's called at the moment, but she talked about having like a foot in both worlds. And I want to say she became a doctor. She's a Black woman who, came from a community that was struggling as well. And she talks about the dynamic of that, and having a foot in both worlds, and what that did for her was really harmful, actually, just because of what you're saying. And so it made me think that, because she wasn't a celebrity, she wasn't a mega rich, right? She was middle class, if you will. And she moved into like a an all-white neighborhood, and they were the only Black family there, and they felt isolated, so like they
Yeah.
lost their community in a way, which is tragic, right? But it's just really interesting. It's like you move up one, I don't know what we call it, what one income level, and it changes things. It's really, really interesting. Like, it changes the dynamic of the community you had. And it's just fascinating to me, because I'm always very interested in, like, how did people, how were things before this, before, I don't know, the Industrial Revolution, you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like
Yeah.
there had to, and I don't know enough to just be completely transparent about that, but it feels like it's obviously things have obviously changed in this strange way, where like there used to be kind of a built-in community, right? Like, you were just born into
Hmm.
this built-in community, and everybody, maybe there were differences, of course, in different societies. I mean, we're talking about, all of mankind history. Of course, there was variation. But for the most part, people were not that far from each other. There might be people who had status in regards to like being leaders or whatever. Um, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there have always been all these different classes. I don't know. But I find it very interesting that today it seems like there's this mobility, right? That's kind of interesting, right? I mean, I think it's
Yeah.
obviously great. I'm very grateful for it, to have been able to get an education that serves me and all of that good stuff. And that's, the quote unquote American dream, isn't it? For the next generation to do better than the last, I guess. But isn't it just interesting that it can create like a chasm, or it can create separation from like the community you came from, when
Oh
you
yeah.
have this mobility situation. And I just think that it seems so just interesting. It's just interesting to me, and and also isolating, like, to your point. And so, this woman really struggled with that, and it was really bad for her health. And so it just shows how powerful it is, I guess. And um I feel like overall we're missing something in the society, that's just real community, and it's not easy. It's not something that's just handed to you anymore. It's something that you really have to work for, build, and make sure that you have it in your life somehow, and maintain it. And just that is hard, especially if you're trying to maintain, maybe maybe both, like maybe two different worlds, like the community you're born into and the community you've created. Um, it just seems like a lot.
It is. I'm thinking about that Black woman doctor and how she should have had the benefit, and I hope she had the benefit of at least some of her community also being supportive and wanting to lift her up, right? As
Mhm,
opposed to wanting to keep her there. I think, oh, well, now she's something other, or now she's different than us. And so
mhm,
we're going to build a wall between us. And then she gets the wall built from the community she moves into because she's
mhm.
different from them. And that freaking sucks,
Exactly, exactly.
right? Like
And all because you're following, frankly, the
the
script.
American dream. Yeah.
It's like literally the script, that you're supposed to go to school, you're supposed to, become a lawyer or a doctor. Hello, hello. And then sounds
That's so weird.
familiar. And right?
Yeah.
And then you're supposed to, like, get the house, get the car, get the kids, you know what I mean? Like, it's literally it's a script. It's a
Oh,
script
and
that
there's
we're all
ages
supposed to
attached to it
follow.
according to some people,
Yes.
right? Like,
Oh, yeah. Oh
I
god,
remember
yeah.
being in college with women saying, "Oh, well, I need to be married by the time I'm 25 and have
Mm,
kids before I'm 30." I'm like, "Who are you and
right.
why?"
I always thought that was the strangest thing.
So strange.
I don't know why I've never felt like I've never felt rushed like that. That anytime that I did feel like people were trying to rush me into something, I would just take a couple more years, like, to before I
Yeah,
even thought about it, like, just to make sure they
totally,
knew, like, "No,
totally.
I'm not responding to that. It's not
Yeah.
gonna happen." I will wait till people didn't expect it, and then I'd be like, "Guess what?"
I love that about you so much.
It's purely defiant.
But
But it is a really strange phenomenon, and I think, it's tragic in a lot of ways, and it just makes me worried for these beautiful, brilliant people in our community who have
yeah,
worked so hard and have just been doing what they were basically, told and directed to do, and then they're punished for it. They're punished for it, and that sucks, and I just wanna say, like, you're not alone if this is what you're feeling. You are definitely not
yeah,
alone, and we need to find a way to lift each other up in this space because there are a lot of us actually, there are a lot of us, and it's a good thing, I think, overall,
I think
right?
so
That we're
too.
doing well. It's just like now we have to deal with almost like a backlash of doing well. And it's very much, on topic of what we were saying before. It's just, who are we living for?
Yeah,
And how can we find peace doing exactly what we want to do and being liberated? How can we find peace as we are doing that? That seems to be the question because you will get punished.
yeah,
People will try to punish you for doing something that they wouldn't expect you or want you to do. People will
or for
punish
taking a
you in
different
different ways.
route.
Yeah, or
Mhm.
forging your own path or doing something that no one's ever done before. That's an amazing thing. That's how things change. That's how society grows. That's how, heroes are born. Like, I mean, this is how role models are born. Like, you have to take those risks, but the risks come with this punishment. I mean, and obviously with rewards as well. But how do we support each other, uplift each other as as we are exercising our liberation and as we are taking these risks that are really more like social risks, right? Like it's
Yeah,
really interesting because it's like you can go around this path and you can take all the right not even safe but just like just I guess proven types of ways of getting the things and you still have to again you can't please everyone, you still have to disappoint people, you still have to let people down in different ways, like even just I mean just the excuse me simplest example of like if you are a quote unquote successful business person, executive, or whatever, busy person, right? Just a person who has filled their life up with things that you want to do or that you choose to do, right? Um, you have less time to give to the tribe. You have less
yeah.
time to give to your community in the way that they are used to you showing up or the way that they're used to everyone else showing up.
Mhm.
And that hits hard sometimes because it makes you feel as if you are not the same, or you're not I don't know, that you're not seen the same as everyone else. Maybe it even makes you question whether or not you're really, still the same member of this community, are valued in the same way as everyone else. And so it's really interesting all the different currencies that human beings use, right? Like there's money, but you can't buy relationships. And so there's this whole other social currency that exists, right? And it's just really interesting to me that every script has told us get educated, get more money, this is the right thing to do. And then when we do it, you're also supposed to be, 100% with the family, with the tribe all the time. Like, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. You can't do it all.
No, you
And
can't.
so
Yeah.
so it goes back to that, do this, but not that, not too much, right? It's really the balance beam.
I do feel like the pandemic helped
Mhm.
build a larger crowd of people voicing, I guess, support for individual peace, right? Like, in kind of respecting
Mm,
boundaries more. Like, maybe because we had to, like, confine ourselves, we started respecting boundaries more, and so we stopped, to some extent, the judgment of other people on whether or not they're, you know, appropriately busy or appropriately successful or appropriately productive or appropriately whatever. I think
yeah.
maybe our voices got louder for those of us who are here to uplift and support each other and allow people to just be their best selves, whatever that means.
I mean, I wish I could agree with you 100%. I
My
want to believe
optimism.
that's true, but I see there being 2 camps in the world, and I do agree with you that there has been a major shift. Even I mean, even touching, like we've talked about before, like different, even corporations where it's like there is a new awareness of people's mental wellness and just
Yeah.
being like people need to be well. Like we need to do something and we're not doing
Shocker.
nearly enough. Yeah, shocker, these are human beings, right? But then you see like these awful stories of just like villainous
Oh,
bosses who are
yeah.
just like, you don't need a bathroom break. Like, you don't need anything. Like,
Right.
you are a machine. And it's just heartbreaking that that still exists, and but I will say it's improved overall. There's far many more people in the good camp than
I
there
agree.
ever was. And so that's a huge shift. It's a major accomplishment in a way. Um, but I feel like we're almost I always think about things kind of in the way I do business of like you have to conceptualize something, right? You have to have the vision if you want something new, if you want something different, and then you have to operationalize it, right? Like you have to put the systems and the supports in place for it to actually happen and to continue happening. And I think that that is it seems like that's where we're at. That seems like the state that we're at where it's like more people are in the philosophical camp that human beings need to be treated as human beings and we need to, value people's mental wellness, right? And I do agree that people are taking some real steps. It's just
Yep.
not nearly enough, not even close. And that's the part where I'm like, where are the systems? Where are we actually going to put in, the infrastructure for this to be sustainable? Because right now, we know that there aren't nearly not enough mental wellness professionals, right? And we know that
Right.
there's even less therapists of color and people that can really, relate to their therapists. On top of I mean, purely a mental health crisis that's going on where we're imprisoning a lot of people who have serious mental health conditions. Many people who have serious mental health conditions are, living on the streets, not being
Mhm.
treated, not getting the care that they need. In addition to all the other people who are housed, are, not incarcerated and still, are underinsured, are undercared for, don't really know, even the families, that want to support them when they have family, don't really know how to get them the treatment and the help that they need. And that's, that's I just there's an interesting thing happening with mental health right now where it's like we all recognize that we need to care for ourselves in a way, right? And like be aware of our mental wellness. And then there's still like serious mental health conditions that people are dealing with. And it almost
Mhm.
feels like two conversations that are happening right now to me. And I don't know if that's the right way to have those conversations because all of those healthy habits that we're trying to develop with ourselves and as a community, all of that really feeds into whether or not, in my mind, a lot of serious mental health conditions actually develop. And so to me they're very much related. Um, but I don't know, I just have this interesting sense that there's an otherness about people who have really serious mental health conditions, and then the rest of us who, we're just struggling with isolation and could get into like these very specific things like depression. And it almost feels like there's like this weird two story thing happening, this this kind of separation in a way. um, and I just feel compelled to say we need to understand that everybody is just in different parts of mental health and wellness, right? Like it's just a matter of how we are valuing people's mental wellness from the beginning throughout their whole lives to the end, and all the different experiences that happen in there. So we really need to, it has to be a cultural thing, and it has to be completely, fully operational and systemic and widespread. And that's the part that I hope that we get to next, because I love the philosophy and I want to see us doing something to really change it for everyone.
And as the optimist who believes in positive reinforcement, I'm so happy that people are talking about mental health. I'm so happy that employers are starting to value mental health. I am so happy that employers are starting to realize that people have different productivity levels and they don't necessarily need to be in the office all the time to be productive. Like, I'm happy that we're starting
Mhm.
to broaden our horizons and see that there's not a one size fits all solution to maybe America. I don't know what everybody's trying to achieve, but I think there's a greater respect for and maybe empathy for individuals and individuals struggling and less inclined to be kind of that Henry Ford. Your bathroom break will last for 30 seconds. You will get one every, I don't know how often they breaks. Back in the day, I'm guessing once every 5 hours.
Sounds
Assuming,
about right.
guessing, maybe. In my mind, they worked unreasonably long hours
Right.
with with little stoppage time for,
Yeah.
you know, being a human being.
Hmm.
But I
Yeah.
think it's changing. I believe it's changing. It feels like it's
It
changing.
is. Well, it is. I mean, that's just the fact that people are having the conversations is important, right? Because before there was so much stigma around it, you couldn't even ever say that you were depressed. Like now,
Yeah.
and now it's almost to the point where everyone's like, when do you get depressed? It's just, what are your triggers? Like we're using this language that we've never really had before. And so I'm very
Yeah.
encouraged by that. Um, and I also see, in my optimism that people who are taking the reins, um, from different generations, like, all of us have had different experiences based on how old we are or how old we were when the pandemic first hit,
Hmm.
and that changes you, right? It changes your
Yeah.
perspective. Or even, just I seen this terrible thing the other day on TikTok, I think it was, where they showed why millennials are so anxious. And it was like, well, whenever we were born, like this war was happening, and then when we were graduating high school, like 9/11 happened, and then when this, like it was just like over, like just it was like every few years something ridiculously traumatic happened in society, and I was like, well, that's very real. I still remember all of those things, and I think it's interesting that we see, different generations taking leadership positions, and they're having a different approach, right?
Yeah.
Like for example, I tell my staff like, man, you need to be paying attention to what's happening in AI and all of these new technologies. Like we could be using these tools, to get ahead, to be doing better. And one of my employees was like, well, my friend the other day got fired for using AI at his work. And I'm just like, well, that's just so interesting because it just shows, like, how different it is to have, somebody of a different generation looking at this
Mhm.
issue in a different way, and so it's the same thing across the board where, different generations will react differently and put in different systems, about mental health and wellness, and I'm just excited to see it, and be a part of it, and I just hope that we can find more and more ways to, you know, basically make it go faster and get there sooner because people need it so badly.
But yes, and I hope that, people in my generation, which is Gen X, even though I'm a what is it called? A younger Gen X? Yeah.
Mhm.
And, but, Gen X generally, even though it feels like a very broad group of people,
Mhm.
we just don't give a shit what other people are doing, right? Like, we
That's
are
a
from
great
the land of apathy where we're like, you do you, I'm going to
Mhm.
do me, and our paths are not going to cross.
Hmm. That could be very valuable at times.
I think
Interesting
it makes
though.
us very hands off when it comes
Mm.
to like being the boss
Mhm.
or overseeing things. We're just like, yeah, do it how you think it needs to be done. All right, well,
Mm.
moving on.
Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. And I have no idea how the new leaders will how they will lead in those regards. But I do see just generally like a recognition, and that makes me really happy that I just see a recognition of people like valuing one another more, and
Yeah,
having a sense that like we are actually the opposite of that generation, I guess, like kind of like we're all in it together type of like vibe of let's take care of one another, and I think that is coming honestly from all the, or it seems it's coming from all of these like collective traumas where people are
right.
like, well, we gotta take care of one another, we're all going to just like lose it. And so,
And I I actually said that this week because I was having a discussion about procedural rules in the legislature, which
mhm,
is as
fun.
exciting as
It's very fun.
taxation, right? But as I was talking about, like, we all have to accept the fact that the rules from before were masochistic because they were.
Mm,
Because some of them
mhm,
said, this is an example. The If you're going to amend a certain very large bills, you had to pre-file your amendments 12 hours in advance. Well, that's 10 p.m. the night before. So that's expecting the author of the
mm.
bill to work from 10 p.m. to 10 a.m. to understand your amendment. They've since
Wow.
changed that, so it's like a 24-hour window, and you actually have an actual work day to figure it
Workday
out.
in there? Wow.
But those were like, old boomer and before rules
Yeah,
where, yeah, and there was something very masochistic about it. And I kind of think
interesting.
that we've all like rebounded from that and are responding, as you said, to that trauma and are figuring it out along the way on how to avoid being those type of, do I want to say control? Yeah, I want to say controlling, like rigid in how things needed to be, right? Like
Right.
one must be in the office between 8 and 5, or if you're going to, for instance, in this case, amend a bill, you need to file your amendment so people can work in the middle of the night.
Mm,
Or when I worked in the legislature, there were so many nights that lasted until 2 a.m. and then you start
mm,
again at like 7 a.m. I'm like, that's
mm-mm.
not a human lifestyle, right?
No, exactly. Yeah, and that's the part where I'm thinking, people moving into that camp of like, well, we need to take care of ourselves. Like even just literally your bodies, like just
Right.
let alone your mental wellness. It's like just people having this, this philosophy of, I mean, basically an accepted philosophy now of no, we need to be, kinder to ourselves and each other in regards
Yeah.
to how much we're giving, allowing for one another to be human in these spaces, right? And
Yeah.
and it's such a good thing. It's such an amazing thing, like, of course, for everyone, just anyone, but also especially for the folks who have always been, extra disadvantaged by these stringent things, like people of different abilities and,
Mhm.
people on the neurospectrum or what have you. Like, I mean, all of those that diversity, right, across humanity. It's like none
Yeah.
of that was recognized, right? It's like
Mhm.
we failed to see the humanity in so many people because we only had like one type of person in mind. This person who is, something I have a gripe with, a morning person.
Same.
Somebody who, thrives during these between these sets of hours, right? Somebody who thrives even in groups, right? Like we're not even thinking about our introverts. We're just like, you need to, well, or maybe we are like, maybe like, oh, we need to put everyone in a cubicle and you're supposed to do really well individual responsibility on your own with no collaboration or I mean we're just we that narrow focus just left out so many people, just so
Yeah.
many different types of people and people who could maybe like offer so much more if their humanity was just recognized in the workplace.
Right. I just read an article from Harvard Business Review about neurodiversity in the workplace and how it is
Mm,
needed, and how neurodiverse bosses are also the most exceptional bosses because they have a generally
wow.
greater level of empathy.
Yep, that makes sense. It really does make sense. Yeah. And this is why I mean the word diversity almost has no meaning at this point, but I mean true diversity just really, centering people of all different experiences,
Mhm.
lived experiences is so valuable and something that we all need to continue to just like challenge ourselves to do and keep asking like who is not here, who is not at this at this decision making space, like we need to make more room, we need to find we need to center like all of those things because if you don't, I mean you're literally losing out. You're just like
Right.
denying yourself a really valuable perspective that you literally cannot have because you're not that person.
And I think now you've brought it full circle for us because it is diversity also in our advisory boards, right? So that they are there to uplift us and they are there to say, I think you nailed it when you mentioned that we need a liberated person on our advisory boards who was like, yeah, you want to go for personal peace and let's prioritize that because that's
Hmm.
not a voice you hear very often.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you gotta have that friend. Now I'm thinking of it, they're like the very fun friend. But I love her or whoever they are.
So,
This has been wonderful. Thank you, Tessa, for leading this discussion. I feel more liberated just talking about
and I
it.
challenge everybody to, go out there and find that liberated person to, help liberate you from those preconceived notions that have
Mhm.
been placed upon us, whether we wanted to be or not. They're
Yeah.
there. We have to accept them, but we can find our ways to build our own little tribes and make ourselves really happy because we have the power and the tools to do it.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. Take care, everyone. Bye, Tessa.
Bye. Have a great day, guys.